The Nephilim, giants of the Bible and their forbidden origins in the ancient pages of the Bible, hidden within just a few verses of Genesis chapter 6, lies one of the greatest mysteries of human history. A mystery so strange and so disturbing that many have chosen to ignore it. It speaks of giants, beings called the Nephilim, born of a union between divine beings and human women. Their existence, according to scripture and ancient tradition, was one of the key reasons God sent a flood to destroy the world. The text says, "When men began to multiply on the face of the earth and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of men were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose." The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God came in to the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. These were the mighty men of old, men of renown. But who were these sons of God? And who were the Nephilim, these giants of old? The phrase sons of God, or B'nai Elohim in Hebrew, appears elsewhere in scripture, always referring to heavenly beings, not human men. The Book of Job describes the sons of God presenting themselves before the Lord. They were angelic beings. Ancient tradition, including texts like the Book of Enoch, expands on this mystery, telling us that a group of 200 angels, known as the Watchers, rebelled against their divine order. They descended upon Mount Hermon, made a pact, and swore together to take human women as their wives. Their leader, Semiaza, feared the punishment of such an act, but the others bound themselves with an oath. They defied heaven, and together they corrupted earth. The children that were born to them were not ordinary. They grew into immense beings, giants of unnatural strength and size. The Bible calls them the Nephilim. Ancient writings say they were hundreds of feet tall, consuming vast amounts of food, until mankind could no longer sustain them. Then they turned violent. They devoured cattle, destroyed crops, and eventually hunted men themselves. The Book of Enoch says they began to sin against birds, beasts, reptiles, and fish, twisting creation itself, and finally, they devoured one another's flesh and drank blood. But their corruption went beyond violence. The fallen angels taught mankind knowledge that was forbidden. They introduced weapons of war. They taught sorcery, enchantments, and astrology. They revealed secrets of heaven that humanity was never meant to know. Some even taught the arts of altering life itself. What was once a paradise of goddess creation was rapidly being turned into a nightmare of bloodshed and rebellion. The Bible tells us that God looked upon the earth and saw that it was corrupt and filled with violence. The very DNA of humanity was being polluted. Only Noah remained pure, perfect in his generations. That word perfect does not simply mean morally righteous. It hints at something deeper, that his lineage was untainted by the corruption spreading across the world. And so, God chose Noah and his family to preserve the human race. The flood came as a judgment, but also as a cleansing. The world was submerged, and every living thing outside the ark was destroyed. The giants of flesh perished, and their fathers, the rebellious angels, were cast into chains of darkness, bound until the final judgment. But even here, the story does not end. For Genesis adds a chilling phrase, "The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward." Somehow, the influence of the Nephilim returned. Some believe that after the flood, fallen angels once again crossed boundaries to corrupt humanity. Others believe that the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim became what we now call demons, restless, bodiless beings roaming the earth, seeking to torment and possess. And the Bible itself confirms that giants still lived after the flood. When the spies of Israel entered Canaan, they returned in fear, saying, "We saw the Nephilim there, the descendants of Anak. We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them." Other scriptures mention entire tribes of giants, the Rephaim, the Zamzummim, the Emim, and the Anakim. Goliath, the giant slain by David, was one of their descendants. What is remarkable is that this story is not isolated to the Bible. Cultures all across the world tell similar tales. The Greeks spoke of the Titans, giant offspring of gods and mortals, eventually destroyed in a great cataclysm. The Sumerians told of Gilgamesh, a king described as part divine, part human. The Norse told of the Jotnar, ancient giants who once roamed before the gods. Native American tribes also speak of red-haired giants who ruled with terror. Even in South America, legends recall behemoths who were destroyed by a great flood sent from the sky. Is it coincidence that nearly every ancient civilization remembers both a race of giants and a catastrophic flood? Or are these fragments of a forgotten history, a history that aligns with the account in Genesis? The story of the Nephilim is more than an ancient curiosity. It is a warning. Jesus himself, when speaking of the end times, said, As it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be at the coming of the Son of Man. What were the days of Noah like? They were days of violence, days of corruption, days when the boundary between heaven and earth was crossed, and humanity sought knowledge that belonged only to God. Today, we live in an age where science experiments with altering DNA, creating hybrid creatures, and even merging man with machine. Artificial intelligence, genetic engineering, transhumanism, all are attempts to break the limits of what it means to be human. We are told it is progress. But could it be history repeating itself? Could it be the same spirit of rebellion that once gave rise to the Nephilim? The Nephilim stand as a shadowy memory, a suppressed truth buried beneath the sands of time. Were they flesh and blood giants? Were they hybrid abominations erased by the flood? Or are their spirits still among us, unseen but influencing the world through darkness and deception? One thing is certain, their story is not just about the past. It is about the present and the future. The giants may have fallen, but their legacy endures, in myths, in warnings, and perhaps even in the bloodlines of humanity itself. And if Jesus was right, and the last days truly will mirror the days of Noah, then the mystery of the Nephilim is not just a tale of ancient giants, it is a prophecy of what is yet to come.